North Korea has suffered from widespread chronic food shortages since the mid-1990s. Between 600,000 and 3 million people, an estimated 5 to 10% of the population, died of starvation. The U.S. has given more than $500 million in food aid since 1995. That's roughly 2.2 million metric tons. In 2001, the World Food Program reported that conditions reached crisis levels, made worse by torrential rains and the coldest winter in 60 years. Areas outside Pyongyang were hit especially hard. David Austin is the Mercy Corps Program Director for North Korea. He was in the country in April of last year, and he joins me now live from Portland, Oregon. David, you've been to North Korea 6 times in the last 5 years. Give us the scope of this crisis.
Well, as you said, they've suffered from chronic malnutrition for quite a long time. And this last year, just over a year ago, the North Koreans asked for food from the U.S. government. And we went in shortly after that request was made, February a year ago. And we were able to see outside of Pyongyang into 3 different provinces, 19 different counties, multiple households, children's homes, schools, orphanages, TB clinics, warehouses, that there indeed is a chronic shortage of food. But what we saw on this trip was a rising levels of acute malnutrition, which is where we're seeing people starve to death.
So it's a crisis.
Yeah, I'd say it's a crisis. When you have a kid who's dying and you can't feed him, that's critical. That's a crisis stage.
David, this food is a means for the U.S. to get a handle on the North Korean nuclear program, and it doesn't seem to create any fundamental change to prevent malnutrition and starvation. Are you concerned that maybe the aid could have been delivered in a more meaningful way?
Well, I would just first say that I'm really glad that aid is going to go in, and that we get to help be a part of the implementation, the delivery, and the monitoring of that aid, because it's needed. You know, I can't really comment on whether it's linked to the nuclear issues. You know, we hear from the U.S. government that it's not linked. That's for other people to speculate and talk about. What I can tell you is I've seen it firsthand on many occasions. So have my colleagues from the other U.S. NGOs. There's a big need for these kids, these pregnant women, these elderly folks who don't have enough to eat.
How does North Korea get beyond this crisis and get this many people in its population to a stable place?
That's a great question. And what we're hopeful about is, as we've seen, just like you have in many of these statements, that food aid is the first step in a new direction of a relationship with North Korea. And I think it's going to need a new direction so it can get to the point that it can feed itself regularly, and my organization and others like us won't need to be implementing food aid programs. We can see North Korea develop and grow and become a self-sufficient country.
David, I know you said that you're overseeing some of the distribution, and we've heard in past that food that's gone to North Korea has actually ended up going to the government and not actually getting dispersed among the people. Is there any kind of guarantee that the people who need it most are actually going to get this aid?
Yeah, and you know, in this program that we've put forward, as well as in our last program, we have Korean-speaking monitors who are U.S. citizens on the ground watching that food get offloaded from the ships, moving from the ports to the warehouses, to the distribution centers, and also doing monitoring of the beneficiaries themselves. Like, we'll be able to do nutritional monitoring to make sure that they're not just receiving the food, but they're eating it and that it's having a positive impact on their health. So it's a great program, and we are very, very confident that we can deliver this program successfully.
All right, David Austin, the Program Director for North Korea Operations for Mercy Corps. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.